brought it up at first. Oh, we definitely put on a spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on fixing it, but don't have any. You don't have any promotional material. They're planning on doing it for how many years down the road, and they don't have it. Yeah, it's all so common.
Hey, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Context. So many opportunities. Still working on it. Content to post.
Yeah, he does. He's got
I mean, it's all a big like tech conference. So I want to learn anything about any industry within that.
all right. You want mics or? Do we have a mic?
Great time. Good luck. Good luck. Is that coming up? When did you say you're flying out?
Testing 1, 2. Hey everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. So, a couple of things I want to say before I introduce our amazing guest speakers and panel today. I'm trying to figure out where to stand. Is this good? I feel like I'm covering you up there. So my name is Dave Gonzalez, and along with Anna, we coordinate AUSOME here, and I just want to, before I announce our guest speakers, I want to acknowledge David Vogelpol, because those of you that have been coming to AUSOME for over 2 years, I guess, know that David used to run AUSOME, and one day Sean Collins, the founder of Affiliate Summit, called me and said, hey, would you be interested in taking over a meetup group? I was like, tell me more. And he said David's about to let go of the meetup group. So I said, yeah, I'll take it over. And so Anna and I have been running it for the last 1.5 to 2 years. And but I just want to acknowledge you for letting us take it over.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. So with that, I want to obviously also acknowledge Capital Factory as one of our sponsors for letting us use their amazing space here. So all their technology and the beautiful scenery and whatnot, and then also Internet Marketing Party is our other sponsor. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Internet Marketing Party. Cool. So about a third of the room. And so Internet Marketing Party is something I've been hosting for, it'll be 10 years in September. It's yeah, I know John's been going for years. And so it's basically I used to go to conferences, marketing conferences, and there would be the speaker in the conference room. And I never liked being there. I always wanted to be the guy in the hallway or networking. And one day I'd see the speaker and then go out to the bar, and I was like, you're different than you were on stage. Like, you're just a regular guy here. And I realized all the deals were happening at the bar. So I was like, what if we took the speaker and put him in like the environment of a bar? And that's what we started doing. And so for 10 years we've been doing that, and every month it's between 150 to 200 digital marketing entrepreneurs and the people that support them get together and drink beer and do deals and set up business partnerships. I think there's several millionaires that have been created as a result of that. So if you haven't been, if you're interested, talk to Anna. If you've never been before, let her know, and your first Internet Marketing Party is on us. Sound good? Cool. So with that, let's move over into our content for tonight, which is how to supercharge content discovery and drive growth. That obviously that's interesting to you, since you could be watching Mork and Mindy or CNN, but instead you decided to come here. I'm dating myself, the Mork and Mindy. You probably don't know what that is. Yeah. So with that, we have, is it Zoe?
That's it.
Zoe, and how do you say your last name?
Asmat.
Asmat? Yeah, so Zoe is based out of San Francisco, and you used to live here, huh?
I know it's what.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So Zoe you work with a company called Algolia, is that how you say it? Yeah, and he drives, his main focus is search using speed, in improving speed and functionality of websites So what are some of the companies you work with? I mean, that you guys work with?
Twitch, let's see, most of them are, the ones I work with are under an NDA, most of them, so.
But I mean, to say Twitch, that's like, you guys know who Twitch is, right? Yeah. And if you don't, they're basically the YouTube for gamers. Like, but they're kind of probably big as YouTube, if you were respectively speaking, right? Considering the market of gamers is this big and the market of people that like videos is this big, I would say respectively Twitch is bigger. So anyway, yeah, so you're kind of a big deal. Travel to Austin a lot, I hear.
Try to.
Yeah. Cool. And then we have Steve, your last name again?
Kale.
Steve Kale, that runs White, he's the head lion of the pride at White Lion, which is an interactive digital marketing agency that I, interestingly enough, have a friend that I was a fraternity brother with that used to work at White Lion, like, what was it, like 13 years ago or something?
Yeah, something like that.
So they've been around for, you know, when I said, how long? He said, older than your daughter. I have a 16-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And I said, so what are some of the exciting projects you're working on? And they just started working with a spin-off of Facebook, is that what you would call it?
Open Compute.
A foundation that's got $1.8 billion worth of funding.
Well, with the revenue being sold. Yeah.
With the revenue. So, yeah, and they work with like the Texas Beef Council.
Netflix actually wrote a really interesting blog post on it. Definitely encourage you guys to check this out. The idea is that if you watched Good Will Hunting, they might recommend Ocean's 11 because Matt Damon is in that movie as well. When you see Ocean's 11, rather than seeing the normal movie title for that, they'll actually personalize it for you because of the association they made, and they'll show you a tile with a scene with Matt Damon in it, so you can make that association. Last example is a e-commerce example. Think of it. Now, this again is a very basic search experience based on what I've ordered, what I've purchased in the past. Now, to extrapolate that a little bit, you're looking at what do you know about the content that you can extrapolate across all the products. Well, there's certain attributes that are like organic and vegan and gluten-free or whatever that you can kind of add that were part of all these products that you can extrapolate, and you can kind of build again these user profiles. The other thing that you can do is you can say, all right, well, I know this user generally buys like the most expensive items per category. So you take a specific category, you look at all the products within a category, and you break it out by percentile. You say, all right, this is the top third most expensive, this is the middle third least expensive, middle expensive, and this is the cheapest third products. Now, if a user is routinely purchasing products within a quartile or percentile in terms of the way that they shop, you're able to take that and say, if I search for bananas, even if I've never purchased bananas before, I might want the most expensive bananas based on my previous experiences. You have that kind of experience built. The idea here is that you're using what you know about your users to kind of create this experience for them. I can kind of show you this quickly. We built a lightweight demo. So there you go. So if I'm searching for peanuts, I'm seeing these results here. But
Is this connected with a certain store?
what's that?
Is this connected with a certain store?
So right here, I'm searching in store 1, but I can go ahead and search a generic product catalog across all the stores, basically combining all of the store's inventory into a single search experience. As soon as I select a specific user, this is Francis Silva, for instance. Francis Silva is associated with store number 1. He's purchased products in the store specifically. So these are the products that he would see based on his preferences, based on the brands he's purchased before, based on the what he's actually added to his cart, and how frequently families purchase them. There's a lot of peanut products here, and they're sorted in a way that kind of makes sense for this user specifically. If I was to change the user profile again to Annette, she would have a completely different set of products. And if you notice, I also changed the store location with that to store location number 3, because that is where she normally shops from, based on her location and her preferences.
So why would a person go here instead of to the particular supermarket or something that offers, like Whole Foods or Walmart or
So
whatever?
store number 3 would be the equivalent of Whole Foods. So the idea is that if I was able to shop against like HEB, store number 1, Whole Foods is store number 3. I'm running out of grocery stores.
Why would they go to this portal instead of going?
What's
why
that?
would they want to go through here instead of going through the HEB website or something?
So you could. So this was a specific grocery store that they had. So the idea was, with this particular example, was that they had many locations, right, of the same, and each store location would have a different pricing, and it would also have a different inventory, and over time, so like what it carried and what it didn't carry. So the idea is that we were able to kind of create this hyper-localized, personalized experience, even with these variable inventories at these different locations.
So this is like if I were searching for peanut butter, this would be, I could go here and it could give me all the options of all the different stores, and I could then choose from it, or well, I don't know.
It could. It could. So this was just a demonstration that we built, but it could. The idea is that you could search across all the entire product catalogs and then select the product and see where it is available. Or you could say, I want to purchase things from this store. I want to create a cart from this store. Most people do that because in this experience, you create an entire shopping cart for a specific location. You can't, get your grapes at one location and your, milk at the other spot. So
Shipping issues.
shipping issues, but this is like local. This is local deliveries here in this case.
Curbside.
Sure. Make sense? Awesome. Basically, the idea is take what you know about your users, break it down into the simplest form, and you can kind of start there. Once you kind of have like a really good baseline of relevancy, you can start building on there to kind of create those more personalized experiences, kind of be able to recommend products to your users based on what you know about them. No one really knows your customers better than you, and you can use all of these tools to kind of create this personalized experience.
Great.
Of course, sorry.
How?
What's that?
How?
Using a tool like Algolia. So
Okay,
we have.
that's what I was going to ask. Is this what your company does?
That's what I do. This is what I do. I sit down with customers and I say, like, what do you have in terms of content? This is what our platform offers in terms of, we are a search engine. We're a very flexible search engine. And the way I design this is that it's agnostic of us. It's not like an Algolia specific product that we're offering to you. You can do this with other search providers as well, but we just make it easier. You can basically just take what you know about your users, and you can basically add them to your ranking formula, or however you determine your relevance. So,
Thank you.
So Angolia, it kind of works like a plug-in for, let's say, like e-commerce. You can take your code and plug it into an existing system. Is that
kind of. So it's an API. So the idea is that you take your data. If you're on Shopify, you can actually just plug it in. Or if you're on Magento, you can actually just plug it in. It will index all of your data for you, and that makes it accessible to you. And the way that it makes it accessible to you is based on the way that you configure that, right? So you can configure how you want it to be sorted, what you want it to make searchable, what you want to make filterable. And then we basically give you some tools to kind of build some of the experiences that you just saw.
So are you selling this to the supermarket, or are you selling it to the consumer?
This is to the supermarket.
Okay, so they're going to pay you to do this for them because you've got a better system or something,
Yeah, that's the idea. So,
rather than they try and generate their own.
exactly. Yes, sir.
Makes sense.
Is that
Yes, sir.
proceed?
All yours.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so in a small one-bedroom apartment back in 1995, Parmer and Mopac, I launched White Lion. And for the first year, I literally had to sell the internet before I sold White Lion web services. I carried around a large ski bag that had a 15-inch CRT monitor and 100 feet of dial-up cable so I could get a dial-up connection to first sell the internet. It was an amazing thing. In '97, when I remember, I'm calling on prospects, and everybody knew what the internet was, and I got a chance to retire the ski bag. And I've been fascinated with the internet, the power of the internet, how it's connecting us, bringing us closer, how it's democratizing access to knowledge. And so I've been a big fan over the years, seen a lot of changes. A little bit about me. As I was growing White Lion, I also grew an amazing family, beautiful wife, 3 amazing boys, love to mountain bike. I'm also a big tennis nut. There's a big warrior element to the game of tennis. Really enjoy that. Helps me keep some of the calories off when I drink too many beers. Also, I'm a big fan of 2 ministries I'm involved with. One called the God of Hope Ministries. We go into the Travis State Jail here in Austin. So to transition over to about kind of this format, I want to talk a little bit about White Lion, give some context. We're also going to talk about the exciting realm of behavioral science and how that connects with conversion. If you're typing content or speaking content, if you leverage the concepts of behavioral science, it can help you be more persuasive in an authentic way. We're going to talk about our favorite search platform, and which happens to be Algolia, and we're going to go over 2 quick case studies of how we're using that technology. And full disclosure, Zoe paid me $20 per case study, so I'm receiving $40 after the presentation. We're also going to talk about our new 1-minute digital strategy video blog and why you should consider also using a video blog to promote your organization. And also, if you want to get access to the slides at the end, there'll be an opportunity to access the slides. So backing up, oops, I went wrong way. Here we go. So yeah, I've been around for a long time, 600 plus projects. We focus on custom web development. We've seen WordPress grow up as a sort of scrappy blog engine now to really an enterprise level CMS. And so we're doing a lot of custom work with WordPress. We're also doing a lot of web application work, complex work, using the Laravel framework, and definitely a big focus on digital marketing as well. And we're bringing all that together through our use of behavioral science. We've got a wide range of clients that range from startups to associations like the Texas Beef Council, to a $4 billion enterprise, Yokogawa, to Dollar Driver Club if you're into golf. Who likes golf? Raise your hand. Any golfers in here? Yeah, so a new spin on being able to get the latest golf technology at a really affordable rate. And then something that David queued up was this idea of open compute, and we'll talk about that case study as well. So behavioral science is really studying how people and why people do what they do. And if you're using it properly, you're able to cut through the noise and be more persuasive and increase engagements. The idea is to be able to allow people to come into your tribe so they can buy from you, trust in you, and very importantly, if you're delighting them along the way, that they're going to become advocates. So you're building in this sort of 24/7 sales force. I want to show 5 quick examples. I wish that, like when I was in college, University of South Florida in Tampa, I got a major in marketing and a minor in psychology. Interesting to kind of go through psychology. You hear these concepts and you go, I already knew that, but there wasn't a label. And once there's a label, right, we can then apply it and then be able to benefit from that concept. So I wish I had learned this concept much earlier in my career. So the curse of knowledge is how we oftentimes assume that other people have the necessary background information to understand a concept or perform a task. And so we need to keep that in mind. And so as content writers, right, very important that we take a step back and look to remove industry jargon. So there's a lot of times when you have an industry, you're probably an expert in yours, that you have a lot of background knowledge, but you've got new people entering that industry every single day that don't know all the acronyms and the jargon. So we know that any bit of ambiguity can certainly kill conversion. So let's make sure that we are testing out that copy and ideally showing that content with people that are outside the industry to make sure that this content has really good standalone value. Perceptual blindness, it's pretty obvious, but it's a really important point that we as humans, we tend to be very goal-oriented. And when we're creating, let's say, a landing page or a piece of content, we should look to see what is the goal of that user, of that ideal persona for this particular piece of content. And can we use goal-specific content like "so you can," so you can really create that action and guide users towards a desired result. And very important too, even to include very simple steps, right? Ambiguity is a killer of conversions. And really important too, like there's a lot of men in this room, right? 8% of the men in this room suffer from some spectrum of color blindness. So really important that when we're creating a story with, let's say, a landing page where we're working down to create a desired call to action, if that call to action has really clear delineation and that we're using grayscales to analyze, is there enough contrast between some of the normal secondary actions compared to that primary call to action. So important to keep perceptual blindness in mind. Now, scarcity we know about, really important, and I would challenge you to think about scarcity more often. I had a meeting with one of our sales guys, and we're talking about this new offer, about this digital strategy roadmap, and how can we authentically and truthfully create scarcity to create some urgency to help people move towards action. Because they're moving towards action, we're helping them move and progress towards their goals. And we've seen this a lot, like only 7 seats available, or sale ends by a certain date, or join the wait list. But I also thought it was really creative how eBay, and on this slide, we can see, and I'm gonna go over here and read it. So we have this item, and there's probably, who knows, maybe 1,000 of these items in stock, but eBay is saying, hey, there's more than 10 available and 116 sold. So really interesting, if you're thinking about perceptual blindness and you're rifling in, you may just see that 10 items available and you're seeing 116 sold, which is using the bandwagon approach, and that could help move someone towards action. So important to keep these concepts in mind. Another really big one is cognitive homeostasis, right? Our brains are hardwired to naturally conserve energy, and we should keep that in mind based on the visitors and those that are consuming our content. According to Gretchen Rubin, about 40% of what you do every single day is based on habits. So why does your brain love habits? Well, your brain loves habits because habits conserve energy, right? So let's keep that in mind as we're creating these frictionless experiences. And important to look at designing pages with what is the specific goal in mind. It's amazing how we can very easily forget that. Creating a very clear information hierarchy so that when they are navigating from page to page, they're oriented and they're not getting lost. And then finally, really important to test out. I mean, things do move fast, but I had a lot of separate eyeballs go through these slides, and there may be a mistake, hopefully not, but we really went in to try to eradicate any sense of ambiguity to avoid confusion. So the paradox of choice, Barry Schwartz has done a lot of research. In this amazing country of ours, we are truly blessed, aren't we, with all of these options. It's really incredible. But it turns out that when we're presented with too many options, that it can result to decision paralysis. Grocery store chains, back to kind of Zoe's demo, is they figured out that when they provide too many options of peanut butter, it can actually negatively impact their sales. So we need to keep that in mind as digital marketers. And knowing how the importance of narrowing options and using popular items, kind of back to that perceptual blindness, making it very easy for someone to make a decision. Because when there are too many options, not only can it create decision paralysis, but it can also lead to guilt when someone makes a bad decision. All right, so if you want to learn more, I was 5, we've cataloged about 80. We're launching a new video blog called 1 Minute Digital Strategy that we'll touch on in a few minutes. All right, so Algolia, and I'm glad that Zoe went first, we are really big fans. It started, I think, about 2.5 years ago when one of our developers found Algolia, and we immediately wanted to do a hackathon to kind of prove out its performance, and we did that, and our team fell in love with it. And our lead developer talks about ease of use. Mike has been with White Lion it's amazing, he celebrated his 20-year anniversary last week, so really cool success story there. And just, there's no server-side anything. It's just a very intuitive interface. And I like how Nicholas talks about the JavaScript library, how you can create very complex user interfaces in a number of hours, and the index speed and the performance is all there. So if you have a search need for your website, we highly recommend Algolia. And when you're thinking about, too, from a conversation standpoint, I guess what we're having right now is a conversation. We want to have more conversations with those that are visiting our content, have more of these one-on-one, very personalized experiences. We should be always on the hunt, right, for natural language. How can we create natural language loops? So when you're looking at Algolia and their back end, it's very easy to see what people are searching for. And we should absolutely have a system in place where we're surfacing those searches maybe on a monthly or quarterly basis to then test out against how does that look on our overall information architecture? Is our global navigation and primary navigation tuned based on what people are searching for? And if there's missing content, that we can mine those search logs, get it to our marketing team to create new content so we can keep more people on our site. We can look at our page titles as well. If we're seeing a lot of searches for certain content, we may want to maximize or change page titles to maximize organic SEO. So definitely a treasure trove of content sits in those search logs. All right, so back to Open Compute, and I like too how David brought up, we'll call it it's called the Zygarnik effect, is we don't like this idea of an unanswered question. Right, so you created this open loop about how we won this project, right? And how we won it is that we out-listened our competition. We've got two guys that have been with White Lion for about 17 years, and we listened better and we got it better. And so really amazing success story. Came out of Facebook in 2011. They revolutionized hardware in the data center, created a foundation, and today you've got some really big names behind this foundation, including Google, IBM, AMD, and many others. And so we're great to be the agency of record for this really exciting project. And so we're creating a public face, a member portal. We are managing, there's a portal for managing all the verification processes. And big surprise, we're using Algolia for this technology. And our team loves it. We're using, for the technology guys and gals in the house, Laravel, Scout, and Eloquent, and tying with Algolia. This really comes together smoothly. And so we got an example of one of the high fidelity wireframes, and this is how our search is gonna end up working. And the client is happy. So this is a really big relationship for us. And so we're definitely putting a lot of trust, saying that, hey, we recommend Algolia, and it's been a big success. Personally, I really love a good American manufacturing story. Interesting too to see some of the numbers out, how we're seeing manufacturing surge in America. And Hustler Turf plays in sort of the more premium landscape hardware in this country. And they hired us about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago to put together a platform to not only serve the end retailers, but also serve their thriving dealer community. And so one of the things that we are doing, besides like creating all of our images through a content delivery network to maximize page load times, is we're also using Algolia in the global search. And we're running an indexer every 2 a.m. and our team just loves it. There's no hassle. We were using Elasticsearch, if you're familiar with that technology before, and everything is now switched over to Algolia. So just as an easy experience if you're searching for, if you have a Raptor and you're looking for specifications, you can very quickly and easily find that content. All right, so it's interesting. I've been in this space for more than 2 decades, and I don't know why. Why is it that 2018 is the year of video? I mean, video is getting a lot of traction. Interesting how Wistia, it's a video platform that competes with Vimeo and also with YouTube. They came out with some research, and they show that if you're creating video content, and we all should be creating video content to promote our businesses, that 1 to 2 minutes converts really, really well. And the next segment is 6 to 12 minutes. And we took that research and thought, hey, it'd be really cool. Let's launch a 1-minute digital strategy video blog where we take the latest in behavioral science and digital marketing and web strategy and put together really practical tips that will allow people to put things immediately into action. So we're getting ready to launch this. We've got season 1. We're using one of our clients, Royal Legal Solutions. They're an innovative leader in real estate asset protection. And so we have been hired to create this long-form landing page. And of the 80-some attributes that we've cataloged, we're using about 21 attributes to help move people towards action. And so, for example, we're using loss aversion, right? We are actually psychologically twice as motivated to avoid a loss than to realize a gain. And we're using that concept in this title, and we'll be testing out for one of the landing page versions. And so if you want to get access and get on that list to receive 1 minute digital strategy, and if you want a copy of all the slides, I know you guys all have, guys and gals, you all have phones. You can text Supercharge to 33444. You'll be added to that list. You'll be asked for your email address, and you can immediately sign up. And I promise we're never going to spam your mobile number or spam your email. You can easily unsubscribe. You can also look at the video series to get ideas for your own video blog. And I bet my team, here it is, I bet my team $1 that at least half of you would immediately take your phones out and type in supercharge to 33444. So I'd appreciate if you could take 3 seconds and sign up. And we'd love to have a conversation. They're going to come from me too, so if you want to be able to, ask any questions, I'll be available. So thank you for your time. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Steve. That was a killer CTA there at the end. I gotta learn that text trick. You can't text me at all, so don't try.
Dummy down that copy, Dave.
What's that?
Dummy down that copy.
Dummy down the copy,
With
yes.
the CTA.
With the CTA, I'm going to do that. Okay, I don't have my cell number here, but I guess, again, you can text. So, what I'm going to talk about today is how to answer questions before they're asked. We're here for supercharging content discovery in a way that drives value, growth. And that's what I want to focus on. I am the VP Web Strategy, as David pointed out, at WP Engine. We actually came out of Capital Factory. Our founder was one of the partners of Capital Factory in the early days, when it was even a contest, and there was an entity even prior to that. The company actually grew up across this wall with the first 3 or 4 people when it was a co-working space, and now we're over 500 people all around the world with our main office right down the road in Austin. I do a podcast called Press This. It's all about digital marketing and WordPress and WordPress development. So if you want to listen to that, you can check it out. All right, so what are we going to learn during my segment? We're going to learn how to understand others, how to personalize their experiences, and how to answer questions before they asked. It's funny, that title, I came up with it earlier this week, and my wife had looked down at her phone and she goes, "Oh my goodness." And I said, "Oh, you hadn't heard yet about the YouTube thing," but I kind of cut her off in the middle of her saying it. She's like, "How did you do that?" I was like, "I know how to answer questions before they're asked." And she's like, "What?" And I pulled up my presentation. She's like, "Oh my goodness, you actually had that." So that's what we're going to learn today. All right, so the first lesson, you need data to do all this stuff, and you need to understand one important piece, and this is true for personalization, anything else in your business. The more data you use, the more risk you accept. And I'm not talking about getting even hacked. Of course, that's a great big risk, right? If you're collecting a lot of data on people and you get hacked and that gets out into the wild, that's a bad thing. In the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica data, they didn't actually get hacked. The app, Facebook app that Cambridge Analytica built, was following the terms of service for the most part. Now, the data retention might have not followed it. I'm not an expert at all that. But the user had accepted that they could share the data with third parties. And of course, it's extremely bad for the Facebook brand and incredibly bad for the Cambridge brand. A lot of bad fallout over that. So as you think about using data with personalization, you're going to need to know who they are. You're going to need to know their IP address, maybe their name, certainly their name if you can. A lot of identifying information in order to personalize their experiences. And if you're doing business in Europe, this is a brand new thing that's coming out at the end of this month, I think, or in May, the General Data Protection Regulation Act. And it has things like you can't store that personalized personal information, identifying information, not even their IP address. Matter of fact, you can't use that information unless they opt in, not opt out. That was the old rule. The new rule is opt in. So if you're doing business in Europe, check out GDPR. As you think about personalization and building profiles and tracking people, every single bit of data you accept, you're also accepting risk. So just remember that when you think about these things. So the first step, of course, is to collect some data. So we need to know, of course, who we're talking to. We need to identify the personas of the people that we can help. If you want to read up on persona building, there's a gentleman named Brian Eisenberg. He actually spoke at this meetup a few years ago. Super smart, a lot of thoughts there. There's a lot of information out there as well about persona strategies and things like that. But to boil it down into one simple thing, the one thing I like to make sure I understand is, well, what is their objective? And as digital marketers, you're like, well, the objective is to buy my thing or to buy one of my competitors' things. That's not what they're trying to do. WP Engine is a WordPress platform for essentially hosting and features around WordPress. But our customers don't come to us because they want a website. They come to us because they want revenue. They come to us because they want leads, because they want to communicate with people. That's their objective. It's not getting a website. It's not signing up for my service. You need to get beside the customer and understand what they're trying to accomplish, and then understand how you can help them accomplish those goals. And then what I like to do is I like to write user stories for the people and their objectives. This is a developer trick. If there's any engineers in the room, you write these user stories. Sally wants to, change her account and do this and do that. It's very common there. But I like to also use them when I think from a marketing perspective. I'm going to do it all from my perspective because it's what I know best. Bill wants to create a WordPress site to grow his dentist business and get more customers. Or Bill wants to have a faster site because it's too slow and it's hurting him in search results. And he wants the faster site so that he'll get more people into his dentist practice. So write those user stories and segment them by the types of people. This example came from our website. And we actually asked him the question. Zoe had commented like, oh, we got a signal because they looked at this article and things like this. And in this example, we have 5 different personalization solutions that we run on our website. I'm going to explain why here in a little bit. I know that sounds a little crazy. But in this version, we just flat out asked them, I'm a marketer running an enterprise wanting to migrate an e-commerce site. Now, one thing I dislike about this example, that so I can message at the bottom, the line there, that I added that in this slide. That's actually not what's on the website. And this was one thing I thought that was missing from this. Why does it matter that you need to migrate that e-commerce website? So you can what? That is their objective. It is not to complete my conversion process. That is not their objective. Their objective is to do something that helps their business or potentially to help them personally. Again, kind of from the hosting lens, it might be that their old host went down and they got a call from their boss on Sunday when they were hanging out with their family and they got in trouble and they almost lost their job. Is that person's objective to migrate an e-commerce site? No, of course not. It's to save their job because they don't want to get fired again. And so that's what they're trying to, or almost get fired again. And that's what they're trying to accomplish. So remember, so I can. What am I actually trying to do? So once you know who you're talking to, you've identified them, classified them, understand their objectives, the next thing you need to remember is that a journey is a series of origins and destinations, right? It's not just, I got there, gave you my credit card, and I'm converted and I'm done. We understand this from the discovery process. If you're a digital marketer, you've probably heard of things like multi-channel conversion tracking, for example. Like, are they coming in and seeing a Facebook post and then doing a search on Google and looking at Twitter and then seeing a retargeting ad through AdRoll, right? Where we're very familiar that the journey is not, I searched on Google, I clicked on your ad, and then I bought something, right? In today's world, there's all these channels that people can come in on. And that's the way that we traditionally think about it in digital marketing. But if you're running your website, or if you're a business owner, and you're ultimately responsible for that site, the journey is much deeper than that. For us, there's all kinds of things that people can do after the purchase. They can come directly to our website and learn how to configure their DNS. They can see an ad that we placed on Facebook, and then come to our website, and then buy an add-on that we might sell. And they might come to our website and see an article from our digital publication, Torque, about WordPress and learn about the Gutenberg update. Oh, by the way, how many WordPress people do we have in the room? Anybody running WordPress? Anybody know about Gutenberg? Leave your hands up if you know about Gutenberg. Okay, excellent. Go learn about Gutenberg. It's an upcoming change to the WordPress platform. It'll make it a little easier for you to create content, but it is something you want to test because you want to make sure that it's going to work with your old version. Actually, Oleg in the back runs a really cool piece of product called Perfect Dashboard that will allow you, it works with WordPress and it'll give you some insights into things that might break after the change through a method called visual regression testing and a bunch of other stuff. Oleg's smirking, I'm sure I got it all wrong. The Perfect Dashboard's pretty cool. He's from Poland. Anybody here from further away than Poland? No, you win, Oleg. So, sorry to pick on you. Awesome. So again, it's know who they are and what they're trying to achieve, and then understand their journey and the context of their journey. And this is important for personalization because you can't do any of the things any of these guys said until you know these things, until you understand their context. I guess you could touch on these points. So. All right. So the next thing to remember, and this is all this before you actually start personalizing things, right? We're going to talk about how here in a minute. This is a very common, once you decide that you're going to go personalize your site and you pick a technology, like anything, really, and you go to then connect your content to be personalized, the first thing that happens is, oh my goodness, none of our content is actually tagged. We might have tagged things with SEO keyword lists that we might use when we write articles. We might tag articles because, oh, it's about Elon Musk or it's about Tesla or whatever. But generally, I guess in a news site that might be enough. But in companies like ours, when we use personalization, we want to know what are the persona types. We sell to marketers and we sell to developers. And so we want to tag those content types. And by content, I mean everything. I mean the markup of our code. I mean the categories of the articles and pages we post, the tags of those same things, labels within our content, the way that our chat works, the way that our blog works, the way that our support information works, content blocks within your CMS, all of the things that you can tag and label. Don't just do it how you would traditionally do it based on the topic. Also remember the personas, and then also remember the customer journey. We're a WordPress platform. Am I going to show how to configure your DNS article to someone that's not a customer? Of course not. Why would I do that? They're not a customer. They don't need to configure their DNS. They need to learn about our platform. So you need to remember, go through the content now, right now, and this is helpful beyond personalization, and tag your content with your persona types, some clues around their journey, what part of the journey is this piece of content good for, and then also maybe equate it back to the user stories, just so you have the information. So then you can take all of that content and then connect it back to your personalized experiences. So once you understand who they are and their journey, and you've tagged your content, now you can master time and space and actually personalize things. Now there's a lot of tools for personalization that are out there that are kind of DIY. Optimizely, I think, is doing the best at this. They're not cheap, but they're really, really good at DIY personalization. We, on our site, use 5 different personalization technologies, and I'm, again, showing you some of these examples. In this one, this was done by a developer. So if you're DIYing your site, a lot of the personalization techniques that you're going to want to use, you're going to need a developer. So if you can set aside some budget and hire someone, great. If you want to learn, that's great too, or use DIY tools when they're available. In this case, what we did was we knew that Jane up here was a developer, and she's a freelancer, and she's helping clients. And she came to our site, and she sees this section called Insights and Resources. Now, of course, I could just rattle off my most recent blog post, and that might be good enough. But what we did was we actually tagged them with the user personas. So Jane's a developer, we know she's a developer. So instead of tagging this content at the top as PHP and update and version and WordPress, we tagged it as developer. As one of the ways that we were able to label this content. And then we actually connected this through some of our other publications with the WordPress REST API, which makes WordPress extensible, meaning you can push stuff out and pull stuff in. And all of the stuff we pulled in, we tagged, because it came from our publications. And then when we detect through a bunch of different ways that Jane is a developer, then we can show her content that's relevant for her. And this is how you answer Jane's question before she asks it. As she sees the insights and resources, she might want to know about security or the beginner's guide to writing custom shortcodes. She's getting started. So her journey is kind of in the beginning of this experience with us. So once you understand who they are, what their journey is, and you've tagged your content, then you can start to do things like master time and space. Another way that we use this, and these aren't the exact words we use when we do this, or even the exact scenarios, but we also customize our chat experiences. Anybody use chat on your website? That is not nearly enough hands. Chat is a super powerful tool, especially if you're trying to generate leads. It also helps with conversion rates on like self-sign-up flows. Extremely, extremely valuable. And the way most people deploy it is you come up with some snazzy message, hey, I'm Jeff, I'm here to help you, what can I answer any questions? But don't stop there. Again, if you understand who they are, where they're at in their user journey, you can then start to give them messages that are specific to them. So in this case, I guess we'll call this guy Dave. That sounds like a great name. What do you think, Dave Gonzalez? You like it? Thumbs up?
Excellent.
So he's an SEO marketer. Maybe he landed on one of our SEO articles or something like that. And so we don't know him very well. We don't even know who he is. He doesn't have a customer cookie, so he's probably not a customer. So when he clicks our chat icon, we pop up the message, would you like a white paper on how our platform impacts SEO? It's one of the questions people ask us when they're coming on board. So contextually, I can answer a question. We know Dave's probably curious about this because he landed on the SEO article and he's not a customer, and a lot of customers have questions about that. So it's a way to kind of, in a sense, offer up content and answer his question before he asks it. And then once Dave signs up, we might ping them a message to say, hey, do you want to check out our Getting Started guide, right? Getting started on a host sometimes can be complicated, DNS, and getting everything configured. And so we contextually deliver that message through that chat experience. And the same for the developer, same woman from before on the right, the freelancer, forgot her name, whatever it was. In this example though, she's applying for our agency program, and again, we're kind of giving her contextual messages for that, and then something specific for her setup. So her setup might be using our free staging for freelancers and agencies, where Dave on the left, he's trying to just get his single site started, and he's maybe a digital marketer. So again, these are a couple of examples of how we use personalization on our sites. Now, tools to use, I mentioned Optimizely, really good kind of DIY personalization tool. You can do custom solutions. Steve and Zoe talked about Algolia and how they're using it to deliver these experiences. We use 5. I'm trying to remember what they all are. The first is HubSpot, which is the example on the left, and the title, Use Hammers When Hitting Nails. Why do we use 5? Because we have 5 unique use cases where we want to personalize things, and those technologies are helpful for us. HubSpot, great DIY personalization tool. They do have personalized content delivery where you can learn a little bit about your audience, and then they have modules that'll show you related content. But the way we use it is in progressive profiling. So if you're in the content marketing business, you're trying to get people's email addresses and their company name and their phone number and all of this data that you can't get under GDPR anymore. And you have this big long form of all this stuff that your salespeople want, but you're like, well, that doesn't convert very well. I just want to do their email address and maybe their name and maybe a couple of other data points. But that data is valuable to your sales organization to give them insights on how to better serve the customer. And so one of the things that HubSpot offers is this progressive profiling notion, where as people engage with new pieces of content and you have them gated, they've already given you their email address, you can progressively ask them for more and more information. You can say, hey Steve, to get this article, all we need is your company name, and then you can progressively profile as they go through your content. So that is a completely separate personalization engine than we use in other places in the site. The example on the right, you'll notice that the link at the top says wpengine.co.uk. So this is our UK site. But then the phone number down here, does anyone know what the problem with that phone number is on the UK site?
Not UK number.
You can't call 800 numbers from outside the US and Canada. They have their own system, generally each country. I'm sure there's a blend of countries that do something else. This came out internally on a project where we had displayed our 800 number to an international audience. And I raised my hand, I said, they can't call that number. So we had to adjust that. And I was actually shocked how few people actually knew it was a thing. What's that?
You can use things like Magic Jack and you can call.
Yeah, but generally you
from
can.
America unlimited.
That's a lot of friction though.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm sure there's a way you can call an 800 number from Europe. But my point is that when you pick up your phone and dial 8777, whatever, it's not going to ring. So does that mean that this is a mistake on our website? No, it doesn't. Why? Because we use one of our internal products called GeoTarget, which allows me to change content on the site based on a person's geography. So I pulled up this site the other day here in Austin, Texas. So it showed me the 800 number. But yet if I had pulled that up in the UK, it would have shown me a UK-friendly number. So my point to this is you don't have to necessarily look for this all-in-one perfect personalization solution. There's a lot of things you can do with off-the-shelf products like HubSpot. Our product is within our platform, but there's lots and lots of different options for personalizing experiences. The key with them is not the magic solution, because they're never going to cover all of the use cases. They'll be really good at this one and kind of good at this one and not very good at that one. The key is to remember the slides I had before, around knowing who the visitor is, around understanding their journey, around tagging your content relative to the visitors, their personas, and their objectives, and then to look for opportunities to personalize those experiences, like with the message and the phone number and the localization and the personal progressive profiling through HubSpot, and then let that be the expression of how you answer those questions before people ask them. And if you do it in line with their objective, like the examples I gave on chat, like, do you want our SEO white paper? Okay, why? So that I can, or so that you can increase traffic to your blog and increase your revenue, right? They don't care about the specific, they care about the objective. And so think about that when you're thinking about your personalization experiences. Use hammers when hitting nails. Use the solution that's going to fit the context, and don't feel like you got to find this all-in-one perfect thing. My final tip here for my section is that you can't cash a check for cool. Personalization experiences are fun, and they're neat, and you can show your boss, or you can show your customers. Look at this neat thing that we did. It doesn't matter. I went to the bank and tried to cash a check for cool, and they laughed at me. So what my recommendation is, if you do any of the things I recommended, or anything Zoe recommended, or Steve recommended, test them. There's no such thing as a best practice in your business. If you go to these, I don't know if you've been to presentations where people do CRO, and they're like, oh yeah, orange buttons, that's the way to go. Pick a picture of a visitor looking at the call to action, like that's the way, you don't do that. And what you'll have in these situations is people go to these events and they rattle off all these best practices and they come back and like, let's do those things. Guaranteed $1 billion. If there was a perfect way, every company in the world would be worth $1 billion. If there was a best practice that said, this is the absolute best way to convert, every person in the room I could tell that to, and they could walk back right now, and it would work, and your business would grow, and it would be great. But why isn't that true? Why doesn't it actually work that way? It's because in your case, for your customers, for your business, for their journey, for their context, for who they are, it is unique. It isn't even the same as your competitors. And so as you think about these ideas, you think about the concepts I introduced and everybody else here, test them. Optimizely is a great platform for personalization. It's a great platform for A/B testing. It is not cheap. Google Optimize, that's funny. Google Optimize is free. I might nitpick some differences between the two. I prefer Optimize a little bit more, but Google Optimize is really full-featured for an A/B testing platform. So if you go implement anything like progressive profiling, did that reduce my conversion rates? Did people stop engaging with my brand because the next time they came to my site, I asked them for their phone number or their marital status or whatever it is I'm asking for? Like, it sounds cool, but does it actually drive the results that you're looking for? So any of the things we do here, any things, tips you pick from any other presentation, test the hell out of it. I guess I do have one more tip. So why isn't machine learning replaced us yet? Someone on social media actually posted this, and I promised to answer the question today, so I'm going to answer it. So why can't we just feed in a bunch of content and have it magically show things that the visitor finds interesting and then they buy? Machine learning is very complex, but I think there are three basic components to it. You feed it behavioral and personal data. They saw this page. They spent this much time. It's this kind of person. You feed it into the machine learning algorithms. Of course, you got to create those algorithms also to do that. You feed the data in. The more data you feed, the longer it takes. It's not real time. The meta-optimized content, you can feed it content, but it doesn't necessarily know the context. Of course, you can also program it to analyze the context and try to figure it out on its own. But generally, you want to feed it that meta-optimized content. And then, of course, then you feed it examples of success. In other words, this is success. They bought something, or they didn't buy something. And then what it does is it churns through all the historical data and looks at all the behavioral data, assuming that you actually have that. It looks through your meta-optimized content, and assuming you actually have that. It sees the examples of success. It tries to build patterns, and then once it builds the patterns, and as it's doing this in real time, then when you have the insights and resources section with all those dev articles I showed you earlier, then all within that moment, it's put it all together, and it's going to present the content. So machine learning and the infrastructure needed to support it in real time in the way I described it just isn't here right now for most companies. You know, Facebook does this, I think, really well. Google does this really well. These are massive organizations. You don't have those resources. Optimizely is doing a pretty good job at this that I've seen. I haven't fully dug into their solution. So scale and cost, that's a big problem. But let's imagine for a minute we'll wave our magic wand and say, okay, that's fine, it works for everybody. You still need to give it examples of success. You still need to understand which behavioral data you're going to track. Why is that important? Why is it important to your personas? And then you'll have to ultimately make sure that your content is optimized and you've tagged it appropriately. And again, you will use it in the future as a tool, and we use it today in the way that we deliver services and content to our visitors, but it is anything but a magic solution that you wave a wand at, and all of a sudden the perfect content pops up for somebody. So that's it for my section. Thank you very much. Yeah, we can do some Q&A here.
Yeah, you want to open it up to
Q&A?
Q&A?
Pass the mic, there's people have questions. Questions?
Is there a plugin for the chat that you would, is that available or anything? How would you say getting chat would be a
I like live chat as a vendor. And the question, if you didn't hear it, is there a plugin for chat? I'm sure there are plugins for chat, but the software as a service providers like live chat make it super easy. You drop a little JavaScript on the page and live chat pops up. And through their portal, you can do things like configure the pop-up message. Now, kind of the poor person's personalization trick with that is you can also drop chat widgets on certain pages with different messages. So for example, in our sales page, it might be, hey, can I answer questions to get you signed up? And then on a support page, it might be some more support oriented. You can also assign them to teams. So for example, in our company, our affiliate team has a chat widget on the affiliate page, and that's different than the sales widget and different than the support widget.
Are you talking about chat where you have to pay somebody to stand there and answer all this stuff, or you're talking about a computer?
Yeah, so
Automated artificial AI or something that
yes,
just
I
answers
am
these things?
yeah, I am talking about the human. There are AI chat widgets. I don't know if you guys know any, but I'll tell you as a business owner, you can also set these things up to only show up on the website when you're logged in. So if you don't have a big team to man chat, just set it up so that it only comes on when you log into it. And then fine, it's aligned with your schedule. When it's not there, it doesn't pop up. Is that?
But
there's
that's
tools
like
that-
telephone. That's like taking telephone calls. It takes up a lot of somebody's time.
It does, but it's also like a really good source of getting leads and being able to help customers to avoid, any sort of pitfalls. It's a lot easier to answer a chat message than it is to pick up the phone and schedule a 30-minute call. So there's tools like Intercom, well, in terms of being able to just turn volume out. There's tools like Intercom as well that are really great for this, and they can actually, like, even if you're not online, you still have the widget. You can basically say, hey, I have a problem with X, Y, and Z, and it's right there. And it's, like, from my experience, it's a lot easier than, you get a lot more traction there than people trying to, like, email a support ticket, which, because that just, people will do that, but you're adding more friction there.
Some people deal better with text, some with voice. And to some things, the generation which grew up texting is more used to that than talking on the phone.
Fair point.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one. So, you talk about using HubSpot to do continuous engagement, building out that persona, but then when you have GDPR come into play, how do you deal with that? I mean, you can't really collect that, right?
Yeah, so the question is, you have this progressive profiling and GDPR comes into play. So I am by no means a lawyer. What I do know is that the GDPR uses the phrase EU citizen. I don't know, I am not an expert at GDPR compliance. No one is. Everyone's response at this point is, we are striving to be GDPR compliant by the date of the day. So I think generally though, if you're thinking about serving a European audience and you're worried about the data retention issues and what can you ask? First off, get them to opt in. So if you're not opting them in, and of course HubSpot is opting in too. So go ahead.
But even if they opt in, there's issues around the data.
If they opt in, there are data retention rules, so you can't store it forever. And then there's also something called the right to be forgotten. So you have to then give them the mechanism to flush their data. The important thing is have them opt in, understand the data retention rules, and then allow them to purge their data. Now I will say, a platform like HubSpot, of course they're servicing European customers. So of course they're doing exactly what every other company is doing right now, which is reading all the rules, realizing there's no case law, and then coming up with a data strategy for their service that aligns with those rules. They've known about this for a long time. I don't know their response to it, but I suspect they'll be in a good spot.
So that makes sense then. Follow HubSpot's lead on that kind of.
Validate, yes. But they'll likely land in a good spot would be my guess. We are validating every single one of our vendors in their GDPR compliance.
In the meantime, can your geolocate tool keep you from gathering that information on meaning?
Our geo-target tool, which is part of our platform, leverages their IP address. It does not store their IP address. It does use it to personalize their information from a locality perspective. It is part of our, but not only are we auditing all our vendors, we're also auditing all of our systems and making the appropriate changes. I don't know specifically how geo-target is dealing with it, but it does not store the user's IP address for the purposes of personalization.
I got a question for Steve.
Yeah.
Now you talked about Wistia, which is a platform that I use quite extensively as well, and you mentioned the 1 to 2 minute conversion window. Now, was that from ad to lead, or was that from lead to sale being the most, I guess, best conversion rate? With the
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how they were defining conversions. They basically, their research was showing that videos less than 2 minutes converted incredibly well. And I'd imagine with Wistia, you can put in certain widgets to have a clear call to action. I don't recall exactly how they were defining conversions, but the big takeaway was, hey, these 1 to 2 minute segments doing really well. And it makes sense that when we're coming across a piece of content and we're scrolling through, let's say maybe a Twitter feed, we don't want to invest 7 minutes or 12 minutes to consume that content. So it makes sense that 1 to 2 minutes would make sense. Whereas experience, if you're cruising through your YouTube channel, you may want to invest more time, and that 6 to 12 minute segment could be more attractive. Yeah, you bet.
I got a question here. You guys talked a lot about basically building these profiles for users, either whether they are logged in or not. So basically you have this cookie and you're building all this information on this cookie to be able to personalize the content within the website. What would be a cheap and easy way for my company to get started to either start gathering this information? For example, at this moment, like I'm in charge of Google Tag Manager, and that's basically one of my ways for me to start basically building those data points and start attributing information to a session. From there, where should I put it in? What is the other platform that I could get started on that actually helps me understand all this information and then actually provide put personalized content forward?
Or maybe what resource can you point him to answer all that?
I think where you store the profile data is a little dependent on how you operate your business. So for example, again, HubSpot is a place to store that information, and then you can express that information in different ways. We do a lot of our storage in HubSpot and Salesforce, and we keep a lot of that deep profile data there. When we think about personalization, though, we don't always go pull from the big array of data. So one of the things you need to consider, sounds like you have some technical skills or perhaps work in a company where you have an engineering resources, but the speed of the API to get the data is also a thing, right? So even if you have users who've logged in and you know their user ID and you can kind of go back to your data source and pull that out and customize it, you've got to do all that quickly. Right, and if that starts to impact your page load time, that could then have a reverse effect on your conversion rate. So even though that experience might be better, the load time might slow down. The way we deal with it is we try to segment the data. We also try to use a little bit more behavioral, a little less user data. But it's not, and of course we're selling a platform that optimizes your site for speed. So we can't yield on speed. And our experiences must be fast. And so that's why we love our geo-target product, because it is IP-based. There's no looking, we do look up the geolocation of the IP, but that's the only lookup we do, and then we render the page, and we have it personalized for the visitor. So I think it depends probably more on your technology stack, but I would say generally have a good CRM, and then look for tools that align with the CRM. So if your CRM in a sense is HubSpot, I guess you could use it for that, then HubSpot has tools. If it's Salesforce, Salesforce has an API, and then how you pull that data out and express it is really specific to you.
We use the Loopy engine for our hosting.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And actually I would say you guys I have to give a shout out to the support team. It's incredible. I had to do a migration not too long ago. They handheld me through the entire process, and without them I don't know if I would have a job right now.
Oh, okay, good. You're the guy that almost got fired. Yes, awesome. You're literally that guy. Oh my goodness.
Oh, you knew about this for real?
No, it was a coincidence actually.
Oh, wow.
I told that analogy earlier.
Oh,
same
my God.
experience. Yeah, I was literally almost got fired and had to migrate. Yes, sir.
Hey, piggybacking off this question, actually, that was a good question because that was pretty much what I wanted to ask. But
would you say for someone who can't invest in a lot of platforms, did you guys start from creating these personas first before you got into the CRM kind of thing? Or like, how do you get started from someone who maybe isn't ready to dive into all these utilities that you talked about, but to start dishing out relevant stuff to our visitors?
Yeah, I heard you mention personas, and
Yeah.
really important. We start with knowing, who we're targeting and how we can best serve them, and creating a really clear buyer's journey, and then identifying, what are the main problems they're having. I like the phrase, so that you can, and being really clear on what their goals are. So really starting there, because a lot of organizations, maybe kind of, splashing a lot, but they're not swimming, and you want to start with a really clear foundation. And it's surprising how many organizations are kind of missing this really important foundational step. So really important to pause and really do a deep dive on who it is you're targeting, identifying them in clear personas, and then constantly, as David said, constantly iterating and testing, and then, figuring out what your technology stack is going to be.
Great.
You want to add that? Okay.
I got a question. Is there a way that I can build websites in minutes that are really good instead of hours and months and stuff like that, and maintain it and update my content for, let's say, digital publications, newspapers, magazines, information sites, and e-commerce sites?
Yeah, use, maybe not all of those words, but if you would like the fastest way to create a website, it's going to shock a lot of people. Squarespace.
Yeah, but it's very limited. All those Wix-Weebly things are very limited in their function.
Sure, and that's why I feel
WordPress
comfortable
is a
saying
lot-
Squarespace and not WordPress, even though I work for a WordPress
Right.
company.
So
Because
WordPress-
Squarespace is a way to quickly create sites, but it's not a way to create real customized, scalable experiences. And so I think if the answer is how to create a website quickly, Squarespace is a great answer. But then they've got a bunch of widgets and tools, you can do cool stuff. But generally, and we're a premium platform, so we're not really focused on the same market. But then, you're like, oh, but I want to personalize that piece, or oh, I really love this kind of chat widget here, this thing there, and I don't want to do it their way. And that's generally when you'll kind of, in a sense, graduate from the page builders.
Well, there used to be a great program for that called iWebMap from Apple, but they quit
Oh, that's
supporting
cool.
it a long time ago.
Cool.
And they say it won't even work on any of their new operating systems or recent ones.
That's
So,
the challenge of using old software.
Well,
So,
I mean, WordPress,
awesome.
you got to go through 2 million menus and stuff, and my eyes give out in about 5 minutes.
Well, check out Squarespace. We're out of time for questions, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So when are we shooting the commercial? What's that? When are we shooting the commercial? Yeah. Hey, a while. Now?
Very good. You guys did a great job. But
I don't want to take the next step. I remember you said it's all you, right? You're still kind of the guy. Are you going to expand?
I built like a website. This is a big issue.
What brought you up?